Really excited about today. This is always a very fun topic for me. A little bit of history behind this topic. When I got into digital marketing in 2000, and B2B was the thing I was all about. In 2000, SEO was the only thing you could do as a B2B company from a digital marketing perspective. I mean, you weren't buying banner ads, there wasn't social media, there wasn't any of that stuff. So if you wanted to help a business digitally, you really had to focus on SEO. And so we got started doing that a long time ago. And man, the world has changed quite a bit. So I'm really excited to have our special guest here to walk us through that. We do have an agenda. If you haven't seen that yet, Andrea, if you don't mind, just drop that in the comments. We're going to follow along the agenda, and then Jesse's got a presentation that he'll share with us here in a little bit. I'm not going to share my screen until we get down into the presentation side. So go ahead and grab that agenda now, open it up, or just listen to us as we go through it. And so, obviously, this is our February edition of the Demand Gen Jam session, the Valentine's Day edition of the Demand Gen Jam session. I did have to sneak out and, oh, there you go, Ryan. Way to go, brother. I did have to sneak out and get my girl some roses this morning. I was hoping to get them yesterday, but wasn't able to do that. So happy Valentine's to everyone. And if you aren't a part of our Demand Gen Jammers group, if you're looking at that agenda that Andrea just linked off in the comments, we would love for you to be a part of our Demand Gen Jammers group. It's a place where we extend the conversation between these monthly events. It's a great place for you to be connected with peers, get your questions answered. Obviously, I think there'll be even more conversation that we want to have about SEO. That we don't have time to cover in today's session. So there's a link there in the agenda to our Demand Gen Jammers group in LinkedIn. Please join us. Once you click on the link, I'll have to approve you, and we do that to keep spammers out of the group. But please do that if you haven't done that already. And then I just wanted to also recognize that we have a new co-host starting in 2024. And so Ryan Miller and I have gone way, way back. Excited for him to be joining me this year as our co-host. You want to say hi, Ryan?
Hey guys, great to be here.
And Ryan did that cool thing with the hearts. I haven't figured out how to make my how to do that with the little hand gestures in Zoom yet, but I know other people have figured it out. Maybe it's because I'm on a PC and not a Mac. I'm not sure. And then everybody knows our moderator, Andrea. She's going to be there manning chat. You want to say hi, Andrea?
Hi all, welcome. Just drop any questions you may have in the chat and we'll get to them at the end if possible.
Yeah, and I've really been excited about all the good, robust commenting and chatting that's been going on the last few months. Let's definitely keep that going on this month, and excited about that. And when we pick this topic, search engine optimization specifically, what are the B2B SEO ranking factors for 2024? And we wanted to bring in an expert to do that. The very first person that came to mind was Jesse McFarland, because Jesse and I have known each other for a while. We met on LinkedIn. What a crazy world that we live in today. But he is just an awesome guy. He's got some amazing content on LinkedIn about B2B SEO. In fact, I've linked to some of his posts in the resource section of the agenda. But Jesse, thank you for joining us today and bringing it on SEO. You want to say hi to everybody?
Hey, everybody. Happy to be here. I've been joining Demand Gen Jam for over a year now, so it's really it's awesome to be a speaker on this. So thank you very much, Paul.
Yeah, excited to have you. And so, yeah, to kind of light up the conversations, Ryan, you want to walk him through some chat discussions?
Yeah, so we'd love it if you guys sounded off with your thoughts and opinions. The first question we're looking at here is, what trends do you see as important for SEO this year? Right, so there's a lot of buckets you could think through: technical, audio, video, AI. But what are you guys seeing out there? And the other one is, what tools do you use to help with your SEO?
Yeah, would love to hear it. The cool thing about this group is we're all B2B marketers, and I know most of you guys are in-house, and so we'd love to get your perspective on what's working, what's not working in the world of SEO. And so the last thing before we get into our discussion topics, I just wanted to make you aware, we've got a really good session in store for next month, our March Demand Gen Jam session. If you're following along on the agenda, there's a link that you can get registered. It's going to be on March the 13th at 12 o'clock. We've got Ryan Gibson, who's going to be joining us. I'm really excited for Ryan to come back. He was one of our guests last year. Last year, he talked all about running customer investigations and the art and nuance to that, which is in our season 2 link, which we also have down in the resource section if you want to go back and listen to that. But we're going to be focusing on something really exciting next month, and that is how do we leverage first-party data to grow our marketing and to stay relevant in a world where third-party cookies and the cookieless world are becoming quickly a reality? And so Ryan's got a lot of great thoughts on that. We've been doing a lot of research on that as well. And so definitely, if you aren't aware that cookies are going away and there's new things we need to be thinking about in terms of our go-to-market, be sure to join us next month because that's what we're going to be covering. It's going to be a really great topic. Okay, without further ado, because we have so much to cover today, I'm going to go ahead and move into the general section, which is all about, what are the B2B SEO ranking factors for 2024 that are going to really help our businesses stay relevant on Google. There's big changes, as Jesse's going to get into here in a little bit, that we need to be aware of. So what do we do as B2B marketers to make sure that we are on top of our game and doing the right things that we need to do to preserve our rankings and continue to drive traffic to our websites and awareness to from our buyers through these important channels? And so let's go ahead and jump in. And, we're going to have a little bit of a general discussion before we get to Jesse's presentation rather. And one of the first things that I thought would be good, just to pose to you, Jesse, and you, Ryan, too, because I know, Ryan, you've been on the agency side, you've been on the in-house side, but is, with all these changes going on, is B2B SEO even important anymore? Or why is SEO important to a B2B company? Why should we even be thinking about this stuff?
Yeah, I can start, right, and then Ryan, you can chime in. But SEO is still like a primary focus on how people find your website or find your brand online and how they can end up on your website. And thinking like demand, I'm a former director of demand generation in the B2B world. So the way I would pitch SEO, or at least I would explain value to my peers, is thinking in demand. So SEO is great for getting high intent traffic to your site, which is great because that can encourage a conversion or even a buy. And then if you're thinking of generating demand, there are things like blogging and providing resources and stuff like that, where you can actually educate and engage your consumer. So it's a great way to generate demand, and that's usually how I would pitch it to my peers and how I explain the value.
How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, so first and foremost, I wish search wasn't important anymore because it's a lot of work. Right? I mean, it is. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of things you have to do, and there's things to know. And then right when you think you know something, then everything changes, and you got to come to hang out with groups like this and figure out what happened, who moved the cheese, how do I do all these things? But the most important thing that I always come back to is what it actually stands for. And the first word is the most important, which is search. Right. So human beings are always on a quest to find something. We're looking, we need to know what's the best solution, whether it's cat food or a Ferrari, what's the best one? So search, whether that's, today we know what search is, tomorrow it's probably going to be a little different with AI. But really looking at the implications of what search does. And search satisfies a need within human behavior. That human behavior is to go find the right answer. So our job is to parallel our user journeys that we're setting up with content that helps them solve their problem. So for me, that's what search is all about.
Yeah, that's a really good point, Ryan. And one of the things that I hear people complain about as it relates to where the world is heading with SEO, especially, as more and more ads appear, as featured snippets show up, and Google's creating this walled garden, and we have what's called like zero-click search. It's like, is it even important? And I think you hit the nail on the head when you're like, hey, the word is search. What we used to tell people back in the day was, it's a buyer-initiated media. It's like the only buyer-initiated media. When you are looking for something, you're going to go to Google and type in some words and try to find relevant information. And so we want to be in those places. Like you said, Jesse, it creates demand for us as well, because it is such a buyer initiated media. And the last stat that I saw was that over 80%, I think the number, and don't hold me to this because I can't remember exactly, but it was over 80%. I think it was 87% of B2B buyers are going to use search at some point in their buying journey. That's almost everybody, right? And so we can't ignore this channel, even if we're getting less traffic from it today because of, the organic listings getting pushed farther and farther down. It's still a place we need to be. So that's really good. I appreciate you guys' insight on that. Let's move on to the next topic that's there in the agenda. And this will be great, Jesse, now that I know that you were in-house as well, and Ryan, you were in-house. When you felt like SEO was important and you wanted to go to leadership or manage up and tell folks, hey, we need to be investing in SEO, what are the things that you would kind of use what were the weapons or the tools that you would use to really validate that this is an area that you need to focus on?
I'll kick us off. So being on the brand side, right? Typically you have people you need to sell this to, and there's really understanding the pushback. And a lot of the pushback, especially in the last, kind of previous 10 years was, okay, well, it costs a lot of money. It takes a lot of time. And when do we see results, right? What? You said 6 months? Are you kidding me? So that's the first little barrier. But at the highest level, I kind of always equated it to working out, right? So if you want to improve your health and you want to become stronger, does it happen overnight?
No.
Nope.
No. What are the benefits to working out, right? You're faster, you're leaner, you're meaner, you're healthier. Your operating system performs better. It's no different than a business, right? So it's like, hey, we need to be stronger. We need to be able to curl more, right? So we need to start making the steps today that ultimately help us become stronger. So it's a long-term thing. Now, most, especially finance people, they're not going to buy that. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
So the other part of that is it's a little bit more of the evergreen strategy, which is, yes, it's an investment. Yes, it takes time. But once you get it going, you typically have the always on evergreen demand that's coming to you. And here's the key part, while you're sleeping,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you're not always having to do all these things. And once you do some fundamentals, it will pay off over time without question.
Yeah, that's good. How about you, Jesse? Anything you want to add to that?
I mean, I think Ryan kind of nailed it there, that it's a longer term investment, which is tough, So if you work in a culture where leads is about everything, it's about, hey, how many leads is this going to, get me this quarter? That's a really tough way to justify SEO, especially if you're currently not getting leads from SEO. So you really have to explain it is a long-term investment. The investment is actually more sustainable. Whereas if you think of something like advertising, or if you go in all on an event, when the advertising is over or that event is over, the leads that you get from that is done. But with SEO, it's more of an ongoing thing. It's like the snowball effect. So the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it in the long run, and then even further to next quarter, next year, and so forth. So that's really how you pitch it. It's not easy, but if you can get people to understand that, it's super beneficial.
It'd be interesting to just look in the chat about if you guys feel like you're doing a good job of communicating or selling up, the benefits of SEO, or if you've struggled with that, maybe just chat that in. That'd be interesting to see in the comments as well. What were you going to say, Ryan?
Oh, I was just going to say, Jesse, that's an awesome point, because the pay to play, right? So when you're doing pay-per-click, you're doing all the retargeting and you're putting money in to get the things. It's so addicting. It's so cool, right? But especially if you have a company that's led by a sales leader, that's a very typical sales-led mindset. But what sucks about that is the minute you turn the light switch off, it's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Forever until you turn the light switch back on.
Yeah, that's a good point. I used to say this all the time. SEO is like building a house. You have to go and get the materials. It takes a long time. But once you've built the house, you can stay in it for a while. Where, pay-per-click, and I would use this as an analogy against pay-per-click, but pay-per-click is like renting a motel room for the night. As long as you're willing to pay, you can stay there and you get immediate benefit. But the minute you quit paying, it kind of goes away. And that just reminds me too, and you guys have alluded to this, but SEO is absolutely a process. It's not a thing that we check a box and say, oh, we've optimized our website, we're done. It's one of those things that does take a framework and does take, consistency if we're going to be successful. I know, Jesse, you'll talk about some of that even as we get into the presentation. So well, that's good. So we kind of talked about, it is still relevant. It's something that we need to be thinking about. There are ways that we can, manage up and communicate to leadership why investments in content and the things that make SEO work are worth it. But I'm sure everybody, Jesse, that's joining us today, and I'm guessing there's probably 50, 60 folks on the call today, they're dying to probably know what is in your toolkit. I mean, you are a SEO expert. You're touching SEO every day for, I'm sure, yourself and your clients. What are those must-have tools that you're using to help optimize clients' websites or your own website?
Awesome. Yeah, I'm happy to share. So one, it always starts with Google for me. So that's Google Search Console and Google Analytics. Those are my two primary tools. Those are the two tools that I can't live without. So Google Search Console, I use it for indexing the site, finding indexing issues, and then the impression data. If you want to get clicks, you got to have impressions. If you want to have conversions, you got to have clicks, which means you got to have impressions.
Right.
So that's another reason why Google Search Console is so important. It often gets overlooked if you're not a SEO nerd like me. Google Analytics obviously is more of the traffic that comes in. G4 is awesome because you can customize events and make the conversion tracking a little bit more complex if you have a lot of different conversion paths. So that's one of the cool benefits of that. Going into the SEO tools, the Screaming Frog SEO Spider is one that I really love for technical SEO, and then organizing the structure. I'm a spreadsheet guy. So basically takes like all your SEO from your website, puts it on a spreadsheet, and then you can organize it on a spreadsheet. So if you like spreadsheets, that's a great tool. And then you got to have the all-in-one SEO tools, or at least one of them. The two top dogs are Ahrefs and then SEMrush. Great tools, but they're a little more expensive. There's so many all-in-one SEO tools now, but they're expensive because they have lots of bells and whistles. And any SEO person will say, yeah, I probably use like 10% of that tool, and then I get the other stuff from somewhere else. So I use a tool, an all-in-one SEO tool called Search Engine Ranking. It's SE Ranking. It's basically a slightly watered down version of SEMrush, and it's like half the cost. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. Content, got to have a content tool in this day and age. So ChatGPT-4 is a no-brainer. But I use for my SEO generated content, I use SEO Wind. It's a great tool. You can see what competitors are writing, what they're writing about while you're writing your own blog posts. Super beneficial. And it also does AI generated content as well. And I think that's mostly everything. If you're on WordPress, I use SEO Yoast still. There's other tools. I still prefer SEO Yoast. If you're not on WordPress, then you can quickly scan your web pages using a tool like SEO Quake. It's another one I recommend. That's mostly most of the tools I use.
Yeah, that's great. And what a great laundry list too. David, I think you had a question about what was the spreadsheet tool, that Screaming Frog. We've used Screaming Frog before too. In fact, last year, as part of one of the shifts that we did around the Google helpful content update, was we wanted to consolidate the number of categories that we had on our website. What had happened over time is we started using categories almost like tags, and so we had probably 100 different categories inside of our blog. And we're like, oh my gosh, how's Google ever going to know what we're experts in? And so we use Screaming Frog as a way to dump all that information out, coalesce our content into categories that were more aligned with our content pillars, and then reorganize all of our, basically we killed like 80% of our categories and then reconnected everything to a handful of categories, and we use Screaming Frog as a way to kind of get our heads around all that. So it's really great. We're a Jasper partner. We are big fans of Jasper. We're also, we use ChatGPT and all the other tools that are out there as well. Jasper is great for AI content. They also have a great little SEO component where you can get in there, and I think it's through a partnership that they have, but it'll help you understand NLMs and keyword density and headlines and stuff like that too. So there's so many good tools out there, for sure, Jesse, 100%. So if you guys have some tools that you like, I can even see some people are commenting right now. Go ahead and drop those in. I think it'd be beneficial to everybody to see what tools you're finding helpful. So Ryan, any other tools that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah, no, I mean, Jesse covered more than I've ever even heard of, which is awesome. But so Jesse, like if someone's just, let's just say getting kind of started and like there's decent sized companies that we do talk to that are just like, we've never really thought about that. Or, hey, we've heard about it, but don't know how to get started. Is there a tool you would recommend that just kind of helps somebody assess their initial kind of SEO report card, right? So whether it's a little technical, a little on-site, but just something to give somebody an idea like, hey, you're pretty broken, you're okay, or actually you're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think an all-in-one SEO tool like any of the ones I just mentioned are great. And the kind of the all-in-one SEO like technology is super competitive right now. So a lot of them do free trials, which is great.
Mm,
So there, if you were to search, I mean, there's CMrush and then Ahrefs, and I know CMrush has a trial version, but there's also a lot of those competitors that also do trials, search engine ranking. But they also like their trial version. For most of those, they don't give you the full bells, all the bells and whistles on the trial version. But the trial version does most of everything that you just outlined there.
Yeah.
Provides most of the basics there because they want you to take that next step to get more. So I would recommend starting with that. You at least get a good sense of what's going on with your site, what needs to be done, and then you can kind of make a decision whether or not SEO is worth it, or you want to invest in the tool or do something else. So that's
yeah,
what I
Yeah.
recommend.
that's great because sometimes just knowing, like a lot of people will have the ostrich in the sand thing, like I don't really want to know, but maybe today's the day that a few people just go do a quick audit for themselves and see where they're at.
Yeah, one thing I would add to those audit tools, and I agree, it's awesome to run your site through an audit tool, and there's the free ones, and then there's the freemium ones where they're trying to get you into like SEMrush. We're big fans of SEMrush. The thing about those tools, I just want to make sure everybody's aware of, they're going to tell you how search engine friendly your site or crawlable your site is, and that's very important. We want to know, like you said, Ryan, is this, are we grading an A? Are we grading an F or somewhere in between? They're going to tell you that. The thing that's really important where, somebody like Jesse can help is interpreting, your website's got to be search engine crawlable and friendly for sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to rank for the words you want to rank for. So step one is we want to make sure that Google can crawl all the pages of our site. But step two is we want to have a good strategy that says, these are the right things that we're writing about. These are the right words we're targeting. And so it's really kind of a combo, but definitely a step one would be, can Google even get through my site? Can they even understand what the heck I'm all about? So great discussion. And I think, I've seen some of the comments flying through. So sounds like a lot of you guys have found some tools that you like. So I'm anxious to read through that when we have some time after today. So well, good. So let's move on. I'm going to go ahead and get ready to share my screen. For those of you that are following along on the agenda, you'll notice there is a link to Jesse's presentation. I am going to share my screen, though, just so we can all follow along here. And so let me do that now. I'm going to pull it up. And Jesse, I will gladly advance the slides for you. But step one is I got to figure out how to share my doggone screen. You'd think I'd do this every month. I'd figure it out
I'm
eventually.
gonna say, first time you
Uh,
always have your speed
uh,
bumps.
yeah, I think I've got it. Can you guys see Jesse's presentation?
Yeah, looks great.
Awesome. All right, it's all yours,
All right.
Jesse.
All right, let's kick it off. Let's just get right into it. Let's go to the next slide. All right, we're going to start with EAT, and EAT is still relevant. So EAT stands for expertise, experience, authority, and trustworthiness. EAT is more of a strategy and not an individual ranking factor. I see this all the time on LinkedIn. Like EAT is not a ranking factor. It's like no duh, it's a strategy. So, but however, most ranking factors can fit within the EAT rule. So if you follow the EAT rule, it's a great way to increase rankings, and that's really why we use it. So, so for an example here, to really simplify it, because I love simplifying stuff, if your website or web page and the content show that you are the biggest expert or the best expert. You have the most experience, and your site or your web page, it has more authority and more trust than your competitors, then you're in a position to do very well on SEO. So that's how I really simplify EAT.
Yeah,
You can
that's
go to the
good.
next
That's a
slide.
good way to think about it for sure. You know, at the end of the day, I mean, it's Google is really wanting to present the best possible user experience and satisfy that user intent. It almost goes back to Ryan, what you said earlier about, you know, search, right? People are searching for something and Google is trying the best they can to satisfy that searcher intent. And EAT is a great strategy for us to make sure if we're hitting all those letters in the acronym that we're creating content that's going to satisfy that searcher intent and then thereby basically ranking well in Google, right? It's kind of that simple, but I wish it was that simple. There's a lot more to it than just that, right, Jesse?
Exactly.
Awesome. You want me to
All
move
right.
on?
Yeah, go to the next slide there. Thank you, Paul.
Okay.
So
Bet.
these are Google's top 8 ranking factors. And this is actually, if you really want to nerd out on ranking factors, you can go to Backlinko. And I love the way they distribute their content. Their blog is really great for SEO. It's really cool to digest, easy to digest, and so forth. But these are your top 8 ranking factors, not like in all verticals, just in general. And we'll talk about B2B obviously coming soon or in the next couple slides. But this is more general approach. So thinking of EAT on what the meaning of all of these, there's quality content. So Google wants to show high quality, informative, and relevant content. So think of EAT, that's the 2 E's, right? That's expertise and experience. Backlinks, we're talking about high quality backlinks. The more of those, the better, and usually the higher the rankings. Backlinks, that's authority. Technical SEO, how Google can easily index and understand your content. That's super important. That could qualify as trust. Keyword optimization, the content with keywords that helps Google understand what it's about. So that can be both the ease and trust. User experience. Google wants to show users the most user-friendly websites, right? So there's a trust again. Schema markup, again, that could be trust. And then both the social and brand signals, that's authority. So again, EAT can qualify. That's how we use EAT on how it relates to a lot of these ranking factors. Now, I've been doing SEO for, I don't know, at least 15 years. I lost count. But if I were to do this exercise like 10 years ago, let's say I were to do this exercise in 2014, and if I were to write something about the top 8 Google ranking factors, I could almost guarantee it probably looked very similar, if not exact, to this. And these are the fundamentals of SEO. In fact, I would say like the top 3 to 5 ones are absolute fundamentals there. And the fundamentals don't really change, but how we execute them, how we implement them, how complex they are, that's what changes. So if you really think about like what high quality content meant like 2 to 3 years ago and what it means today, the definition of quality content could be completely different. So that's what really changes in SEO, and that's what makes it hard to keep up with. But again, it's if you're to focus on like the top 3 to 5 things there, you're probably in a really good place because those are the essential fundamentals.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the thing about it is, you know, it's this constant battle because, you know, people are always out there trying to game the system, which, you know, I've never been an advocate of. Oh, hey, Google wants links. Let's go buy a gazillion links because we think that's going to get us, you know, that's going to help us game the system, if you will, and get better rankings. And that's a zero sum strategy because what happens is if you're trying to chase ways to cheat the algorithm, Google's constantly looking for new ways to overcome all those things that people are doing to cheat the algorithm. And so to your point, Jesse, it's so much better just to focus on the fundamentals and make sure Google can easily crawl your site and that you're creating quality content, because then you don't have to run around and worry about, you know, oh my gosh, this guy's got 5 more links than I do. And, you know, how do I fix that? Because I promise you, Google's dev team they've got way bigger budgets than we do to stay on top of who's spamming their results and who's not. And so let's not spam. Let's just create really good stuff that our audience wants, and let's make sure we're communicating well to a niche base, not trying to be everything to everybody. All right. Moving on to the next slide, Jesse.
Yes, sir. All right. So let's talk about B2B. So my main focus in SEO is in the B2B world. So for both SaaS and professional services. And what I'm going to show you here is my top 5 ranking factors for B2B. And I also consider them the top ranking opportunities that B2Bs can either implement or improve upon. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started.
Awesome.
Number 1, technical website SEO. So I call this technical website SEO because it's an improvement on both the technical for your website and the technical for SEO. If you're really to sum it down, like I like to simplify stuff. So we look at its seamless user experience. So looking at the user, when a user lands on your site for the very first time, what's their experience like? Do they stay? Do they leave? Do they navigate through your site? Do they find what they're looking for? And the great thing about user experience, that there's a variety of different ways that you can measure it. And one of the ways that I like to do it is through Google Analytics or GA4, again, through event tracking or conversion tracking, where you can actually set up different events and customize them however you want. And so you can actually, if you have like a customer journey in mind, or a journey through your website of what it takes for someone to get to a conversion of what that should look like, you can set up different events to and map that out and see if you're doing it correctly, if your current website is doing it correctly. So that's a great tip there. The next one is page speed. This is pretty simple. Google favors sites that are fast. Third one there is mobile. And many like B2B marketers do their marketing and their stuff on their desktop or their laptop, right? Not a lot of us, maybe if you're an e-commerce business, you do a lot of your stuff on your mobile device, but that's not the case for us B2B people. But because we're usually on our laptop or desktop, it's easy to forget about what your site looks like on mobile or how it performs on mobile. So that's usually an often overlooked thing or overlooked issue, because there is a significant number of mobile users or people that use and search stuff mobile. Or generally, most people that are online use mobile device. But even if you're in a B2B world and your customers are on desktop, on mobile, or I'm sorry, on desktop or a laptop, it's still a good idea to optimize for mobile first. We call that mobile first indexing, because if your site performs well on a mobile device, it's very likely it's going to perform well on a desktop or a laptop.
Yeah, a couple of things there too that just came to mind, Jesse. One is, mobile and desktop are so critical. I loved everything that you said, because we B2Bs, we're sitting at our desk 9 hours a day, 10 hours a day, whatever. We're on a laptop or a PC. It's easy for us to think about that. But the reality is there's 2 stages of a buyer journey. One is in this kind of awareness stage where I'm learning and I'm trying to figure things out. I'm trying to learn and understand what options are available to me. And oftentimes I'm doing that in a passive way, because maybe this project isn't a priority, but I at least want to be aware of what's going on. And so we're consuming information, we're reading words. And so, that often will happen on a mobile device. So maybe you're on LinkedIn on your phone, you click on an article, and now you're reading that article on your phone. So mobile is really important for that. But then, like you said, Jesse, when it comes time to convert, more than likely they're going to convert on a desktop, probably, because they just got out of a meeting with their boss. Their boss said, hey, go talk to this company about this thing. Let's get a quote from them or whatever. They're going to go to the website on their desktop, fill out a form. And so it's really important for both of those. And that's really key. Another thing I remember reading about in terms of user experience, Google's actually monitoring if somebody does a search, they see your website show up, they click on the link and go to your website. Do they come back to the search page and click on another website? If they do, that's actually, it's not a huge ranking factor, but that's an indicator to them that maybe you didn't satisfy the answer of that user. And so the words that you want to be ranking well for or be found for and that user experience, you want to make sure that when they come that you're giving them the answer and that they're not popping back out to the Google search result page and then popping into one of the other listings on the website. So just something to think about there.
Awesome. So just a quick little tip here is one of the tools I like to use here is Google Lighthouse. Google Lighthouse is a Chrome extension, super easy to download. You can scan your site, takes like 20 seconds. And then it'll give you like an outline of the performance of your site. So actually, if you haven't done this, I challenge everyone to download Google Lighthouse and run it on your own website, maybe sometime today. You can actually see how well it's performing. Just like any tool, it likes to give you a score. It's usually like red, yellow, or green. I did this for Vendy Digital. It's orange. And you guys scored an 84, which actually, I know it's not green, but it's a really good score for B2B. And just being totally transparent, that's a way better score than my site. So you guys are doing really, really well.
Hey, Ryan, what can we do to get that up, man? We got to get that to green like tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it'll be done tomorrow. It's fine. I got that.
Yeah. And that's a perf segue because a lot of people, they focus on the score. Google doesn't care about the score. It's really about like, what are the things that are dragging you down? And so Google does not care whether you're yellow, orange, green, red, whatever. It doesn't care. It's really about whether or not your site is it's individually these things for performance. So if your speed index, let's say it's in the red, it's taking like 7 or 8 seconds. That's an opportunity where you can actually improve upon and possibly increase ranking. So when you look at something like this, look at things that you could actually improve on, not just the actual score it provides you.
Oh, hey, Jesse, tell us how we get to the Google Lighthouse. Do we just Google Lighthouse? Is that the best way to get there?
Yeah, just go to Google Lighthouse. And I think that the top two is about it. And then the second one is like the actual Chrome extension. Just go to the Chrome extension, upload it onto your Chrome, and it's really simple.
Awesome. Great.
Yep. Cool. All right. So let's go to the second one. On-page SEO and user intent. So we'll start with the obvious, and that's optimizing your content for keywords. Now, the way I usually optimize for one priority keyword per web page, and then I have like similar secondary keywords. Some of those are just similar versions of the primary. Some of those are long tail versions of the primary keyword. But overall, my main focus, what I really want to rank for, is that primary keyword. So hopefully that makes sense. And I try to put that one in my metadata, super important. I put it in my content. So usually somewhere within my titles, and then organically and naturally within my content. Now, this is where people get in trouble. They try to go into balance. Where like, I really want to rank really well for this keyword, so I'm going to stuff it everywhere within your content. That's not how you do it, because now you're optimizing for Google and not the user. You got to optimize for both equally, right? So that's super important. And then there's other ways like media, there's alt tags and so forth. You can optimize. So make sure you do it in an organic way where it's not so forced. It's still a good user experience. Next is optimize for user search intent. So you really need to know, we talked about this earlier, like you really know like what your high intent terms are. And then what if you know your high intent terms are, those should be on your high intent pages. So typically that could be, if you go through the BOFU, MOFU, TOFU approach, that's great. But I like to simplify stuff. I like to categorize my keywords, whether is this a keyword that's going to lead to a buyer or a conversion, or is this educational type of content or an educational type of keyword? That really simplifies it for me. So that's how I segment my keywords. And then I create content or assign those keywords to those type of pages. So for me, the BOFU or the high intent or to buy type of keywords, whatever you want to use, whatever title you use there, those are my pages like my home page, possibly my services page, my products pages, and so forth. And then my educate content, that's my resources, typically like my blogging and stuff like that. The third one here, and I put a little star here because this is a great opportunity, is to refine and refresh your content. So because I'm so familiar with the B2B world, I know how a lot of B2Bs do SEO. And how a lot of B2Bs companies do SEO is they have content writers cranking out blog content every single month, and that's their primary focus. So if you're doing a lot of that, then you're eventually going to have a massive content library. And then what are you going to do with all that old content, right? And so if you don't constantly update that content, it's going to get outdated, and you're definitely going to lose rankings. So low hanging fruit here, something if you take away anything that you could probably implement at your company, this is probably one that you could definitely do. And I'm going to show you how you can do that in the next slide.
Hey,
Awesome.
real quick,
Yeah.
just jumping on that, Jesse, two things. So one, you guys have probably read it, and if not, if you didn't catch it, you'll probably see it now that you're kind of more aware. But when you're reading someone else's content, you can tell when they're stuffing, right? You can tell it's desperate and it doesn't read well, right? So as a user, you're like, what? Why is this doesn't even make sense. Either it was a poor AI written or these guys are stuffing. So you can tell, and that's what Jesse's talking about. Like it needs to read well, which is the art and science at such a balance. And then the refine and refresh, like again, if there was one thing that you went home and took home and did, it's this. This is huge.
Right. And guess what? AI is wonderful for that. It's a wonderful use for it.
That's right. All right. So this is my tip on how you can refine and refresh. So, and this is how I do it. So what I do is I go into my Google Search Console and I look up impression data. So once I look up impression data, I either look at one or two things. I either look at my top queries or my top pages. Top pages actually makes it a little bit easier. And what I look for is like my pages with the highest amount of impressions and what my click-through rate is, what my average position there is, and like maybe how many clicks there. So if I know I have some pages that have high impressions with a super low click-through rate, there's something I can do there to improve the average position, because if you have a higher average position, then odds are I'm going to have a higher click-through rate, get more clicks, get more traffic to my site. So that's what I do. Now, how I optimize it? Well, I'll read through the content. I'll make sure it's updated. I can look through the metadata. I could add more stuff. I could add more content. I can add more images. I could just improve the value however I feel necessary. But that's really how you can refine and update your old content.
Hey, Jesse, I got a question for you on that. So, because I get this question a lot, and that is, once you've gone through and given a page a facelift, do you keep the URL and that page the same, or do you take that facelifted page rather and launch a new article with the new content? So is it now I've got an old page, now I've got a new page, or the old page is now just gotten a facelift?
Great question. So it kind of depends on like where you currently rank. So if it's like, let's say you rank like the 99th percentile and you have a long ways to go, it might make sense for you to create a new version of that content and then maybe a better URL that's more specific to the keywords that you want to rank for. That would be only if you rank really poorly, but most of the time I would just go, okay, how can I, update that content, keep the URL the same, especially if it's been around for a while, especially if you've ranked well before and it's starting to decrease, it just needs to be refreshed.
Yeah.
So that's how I look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. That you just reminded me of a study that HubSpot did a couple of years ago where, they're huge on blogging, obviously, and they went back and realized that 70% of their traffic was coming from older pages. And so they took 15% of their effort and focused that effort on going and updating older pages. And those pages just exploded in terms of the amount of new traffic they were getting to their site by just updating those older pages. So good stuff there.
And one thing, and this, I just thought of this because I do consulting as well with SEO packages for my clients. So a common thing that I'll recommend, instead of like, hey, have your blogging team, instead of doing 8 posts a month, let's get that down to 6 and apply the other 2 of those resources for the other 2 of just optimizing the old content.
That's a great
strategy. That's a way that you could just, you're still generating new content, but you're also you have the resources now to go back and make your old content better. So
that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
All right, quality content with quality content, let's talk about AI and human writers.
The
So if you
elephant in the room.
the elephant in the
Yeah.
room, this is the obvious no-brainer, right?
Right.
So so the first question, I love asking this question because I think it's true. So does your AI generated content, does it enhance or replace your content? And if you use it, if you use like an AI tool to replace your content, then that is likely a crash and burn waiting to happen. And the reason is with all this content that's out there, Google favors unique content. And if your content is 100% generated from AI, that is not unique because AI is getting that information from other sources, right? So if you're kind of looking at okay, I want to write about something, but everything is there's already a bunch of blog posts out there that has the same information I want to write about. What do I do? Think of the two E's: experience is expertise. And so I call it IMHO, or in my humble opinion, type of content. So instead of saying like, hey, these are the top 10 X, these are our favorite 5 things that we like to do. You know what I mean? Or from our own experience, you can so generate your own experience that also allows you to provide your own personality, your own experience. You could provide case studies and so forth. And that's how you can easily generate uniqueness.
Yeah, a couple of things, if you don't mind, I'd like to just jump in there. One is I get asked this question all the time, Jesse. I know you do too. And that is, doesn't Google hate AI generated content? And the answer I always tell people is Google does not hate AI generated content. They hate bad content. So if you write bad content with humans or you write bad content with AI, they're not going to do anything with that content. So you've got to have content that's actually good content. And, you know, to touch on something you just said, we need to move away from how to, you know, here's my 10 steps to how to do these things, but I loved your example, Jesse. It's like, these are our favorite tools, not the top 10 tools, but our favorite tools. Or this is how we had this challenge. This is how we overcame this challenge. Or even think about writing around your point of view, you know, telling people what you see is broken in their business and how to fix it. Those are great. What we're seeing is working well in search when you're really focused on that unique content, not something that can easily be sourced off the web. I love the way you said it too, about how AI is basically learned on everybody else's content out there. So if you ask AI to write a blog, it's just going to write something that it can regurgitate from what it learned out there on the web. So we can't lean on AI to write all of our content. Okay. Hey, I just got the 10-minute warning too, Jesse. So I'm going to let you know that we've got about 10 minutes left. And if we don't get through everything, we'll certainly move the conversation over to the Demand Gen Jammers group. So back to you, sir.
No problem. I'll pick up the pace. So here is one thing with AI content. This is probably something I talk about the most about. I've done like 3 or 4 podcasts. I've done a couple webinars in the last couple months just on this topic. I actually have a blog post I wrote about on my website at thespearpoint.com they could check out. But the way I do it is I use more than one AI tool. So you try to use more than one. And I also use multiple prompts. I want as much information I can. And once I get that information, I get down to number 2 where I consolidate. So sometimes I might have a blog post might be 15 plus pages long. And I try to get that down to 5 or 6 because I'm trying to pick and piece the best content I can utilize it. And then I apply my own human writing in there. So my own expertise, my own experience and so forth. And I try to apply the 80-20 rule where 80% is from AI, at least 20% is from a human. And then how you can optimize for uniqueness, tables like lists, quotes, using custom images instead of stock images, but using customized images or graphics are great. Video is another great. Anyway, like content should be scannable, but any way you can slow down or even stop the scroll is what you're trying to do. And then you optimize for SEO and publish.
Yeah, that's great. That's awesome. Great feedback. And, you know, obviously, you know, things like multimedia too, like you said in there, those are always going to be great. And I love just taking like my PowerPoint slides. You know, when I'm writing a blog, more than likely I've taught on that topic before, and I'll literally just screenshot a PowerPoint slide and slap it in my blog as an infograph because that's unique. It's not stock images. It's something that's going to be valuable to the reader. It's something that Google will like.
Yep. All right. So now let's talk about structured structuring and organize your content. This is actually a really good one. I should put the Screaming Frog SEO Spider little icon here. It's a great tool to help here, or at least that's what I use. What I look for first is like internal linking structure. So I want to make sure my priority keywords, my keywords that definitely are my buying keywords, are the kind of the hub of my content, and then I have spoke content underneath that. And I'll show an example in the next slide. One thing I do recommend, if you haven't do like breadcrumbs, if that can fit with your design, breadcrumbs is great. It kind of forces you to organize your content as you're creating it. And that's one of the benefits of breadcrumbs. So I'm a big fan. Updating schema markup. This is just telling Google or showing Google and then on SERP of like little snippets of like why someone might want to click on your site. So you can do things like products. You can actually do reviews. You could, if you're a local company, you can have your local snippet there. Q&A. If you're doing blog posts, I think a standard one is like authors. You can have little snippets there, so it's really cool. And then is your content properly indexed? Again, that's Google Search Console. That should actually have a star on it too. That's an important one. Okay, cool. So this I think is super important. And again, this is how I use like Screaming Frog. If you don't have a Screaming Frog, that's fine. You can pretty much outline it. But for me, I want to rank for B2B SEO for my company. That's super important. So I want to make sure I have an awesome landing page or page designated to B2B SEO. And it's still, because it's a competitive keyword for me, it's still hard to get rankings there. So I got to really tell Google that, hey, I got a lot more value about this. So I can get my own internal links. I can write other related content about B2B SEO, like SEO strat or 2024 SEO strategies, or why invest in B2B SEO or keyword research. I can write blog posts, and those can all rank in for different terms, individual terms or long tail T terms individually. But what I'm really trying to do is have an internal linking structure where the B2B SEO service page has the most authority. So all that content all the support content is linking to that top page. So I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, we call that the hub and spoke strategy too. So you've kind of got the hub, which is that primary key phrase in the middle, and then all those ancillary blogs are pointing back to that hub page to really kind of communicate to Google, this is the most important page. And that extra weight is what helps boost those hard ranking terms up to the top.
Yep. And links and domain authority, this is the last one. So this is basically a form of link building, or it is link building, I should say. And that's when other websites are referring or are linking to yours or have links to your site. How to do this? Well, step one, a little star here, important, is your content shareable? Is it good enough that other people want to share it? There's a lot of ways to do that. You can have an amazing blog post, or you can have like awesome images on your blog post that's shareable. Infographics is a great way to do it. You have video. There's all kinds of ways to do that. A common one is like in B2B world, statistics. If you're ever writing a blog post and you want a statistic, what do? We look for a statistic from another site. We put it in our blog post, and we usually link to it. That's a great way to have shareable content. Business listings, that's a low-hanging fruit. Business listings could be like G2, Trustpilot, Google, whatever. There's a lot of those, and a lot of those also actually are review sites. And this is actually my favorite tactic for my own company is generating reviews. Because I have a certain amount of reviews, I rank, like if you were to look up for top SEO agencies in Colorado or in Denver, or top B2B SEO companies, I rank very well in a lot of those. I have a lot of these sites that say, hey, my agency is in top 10 or 5 or whatever. Those are all very powerful links for me. And then they also generate other links. So other bloggers and content creators, if they want to write about their own piece of content of what the best SEO companies are, they'll usually reference those review sites and then write about me in their content, which is this passive link building. It's great. Works awesome for me. And also have a link building strategy, really having an active link building strategy and not paying for links. And this is my 2024 link building strategy. Shareable content, talked about that. Business listings, talked about that. Reviews. We talked about that. Unlinked brand mentions, that's when someone mentions your brand and doesn't provide a link. Ask them to provide a link. It's an easy one that you can look for. Industry related guest posts. So that's more of like when other sites or you're asking other sites to supply a link. Hopefully it's related and it's a valuable site. Ego bait content. So that's when you brag about something, or if you do like the top 5, if I were to do like the top 5 SEO keyword ranking tools or keyword tools or something like that, I could then tell those companies like, hey, you're in my top 5. They'll likely share it or write about it. It's a tactic that I use a lot. Be a podcast guest.
Love that
works
one.
very well.
Yeah.
Host a virtual event like this one we're on right now. That's a great one there. Good job, Paul. And then public relations, PR. That's the toughest one. There's ways to do that. It's a little complex. We don't have time to go into it, but that's a super important one because those are high domain pages.
Yeah, man, I can't emphasize enough on that whole being on a podcast guest, because, you know, every one of those podcasters has show notes, and more than likely you're going to get links back to your website with high authority link backlinks. It's good stuff. So, hey, we got 2 minutes left. So let's run through this slide, Jesse, and then more than likely we'll just drop you the slides into the Jammers group. And of course, everybody's got them as well, but want to be good stewards of everybody's time.
Yeah, I'll do the best I can. So more content than ever. That's an absolute sure thing that we know it's going to happen this year. So quality is going to change. What is quality today is probably going to be different from the end of the year because it's moving so fast. Google search generated experience. So that's when Google's actually trying to provide more AI generated responses or answers to queries. Still, the best way to rank for those is pretty much everything I just supplied it or showed you in this deck, right? It's still going to show the most best and relevant content. And then the other thing too that I've read a lot of, if you have like a total different take versus other what the majority is saying, then you have a good chance to also rank there. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
That is.
And then the other thing is zero-click searches. So that's when someone maybe finds what they're looking for, doesn't click, but they find what they're looking for and then go for something else. That's really a common thing. That's going to happen more and more. So that could change how we look at search eventually, of like maybe impression data is more important, is a little bit more important than it used to be. But there's also things that you can do is to make sure you have CTAs in your metadata, and then you have a good schema markup there. So that always is helpful as well.
Yeah, great point there. This search generative experience is going to clog up the above the fold real estate in search results, which means we're all going to get less traffic from search. I just want you to hear that. We're going to get less traffic from search, but still, we talked about it at the top of the call, search is a huge channel for us. So it is what it is. We just want to make sure with Jesse's great tips today, and thank you, Jesse, for sharing everything with us, that we're doing all the right things to maximize that we are getting impressions. If somebody's going to be in a zero-click state, they're not going to click to our website. Loved your idea about putting a call to action in our metadata. That's a great idea. And then just understanding that, hey, an impression is a good thing. If somebody did a search and they found us above the fold, but they didn't click to our website, that's probably okay. If we do get traffic, and when we do get traffic, obviously that's going to be even more qualified traffic now, I think, because, you know, somebody taking the time to actually click to our site with all that information that they're going to get basically for free on Google just means they're going to be highly qualified when they get over there. So, guys, thank you so much for your time. Jesse, this was amazing. Great information. I hope everybody learned a ton from today. And, you know, Ryan and Jesse and I are actually going to jump on kind of an after hours brain dump, and we're going to record that too. And we'll make that available on the Demand Gen Jammers group. So if you haven't joined that group, be sure to do that. And also on the agenda, be sure to register for the March event, and we'll be talking all about the cookieless world and what we can do about that. So guys, thank you so much for your time, and we will catch you next month. Take care, everybody. Jesse, thanks again. You did an awesome job.